When it comes to avoidant personalities, one of the most confusing behaviors they display is their need for distance. If you've ever been close to an avoidant, you know the pattern. Everything feels good, you're connecting, and suddenly they pull away. They stop responding as quickly, they become quieter, or they spend more time in their own bubble. For many people, this feels like rejection. It feels like abandonment. But here's the truth that most people miss. When an avoidant pulls away, it isn't always about you. It's about them needing space to manage their own emotions and self-regulate when the closeness feels overwhelming. And here's the sign that truly separates disinterest from love. They always come back. That return after distance is one of the clearest indicators that you are not just a passing thought to them, you are someone they cannot stay away from. For an avoidant, distance is comfort. They were wired to protect themselves by stepping back whenever intimacy feels too close, too fast, or too risky. But love creates a new conflict inside of them. On one hand, their instinct tells them to retreat into safety. On the other hand, their heart is pulling them right back toward the person who matters. When you see an avoidant take that step back into their shell and then fight through their own discomfort to return, you're witnessing a powerful shift. They are essentially saying without words, I need to breathe, but I also need you. That coming back is not an accident. It's not habit. It's a sign of emotional gravity pulling them toward you, no matter how much their fear tries to push them away. Think about it like this. If an avoidant truly didn't care, they wouldn't return, they wouldn't check in, they wouldn't reappear after the silence. Their absence would be permanent. But when someone with an avoidant style chooses to re-engage, it reveals something deeper. It shows that while they may fear closeness, they fear losing you even more. That act of coming back is their version of saying, you are worth pushing past my comfort zone. It's not always going to look romantic, and it's not always going to come with a speech about their feelings. Sometimes it's a simple text. Sometimes it's an invitation to meet. Sometimes it's just showing up like nothing ever happened. To you, it may feel subtle, but for them, it's monumental. What makes this so important to recognize is that many people misinterpret the cycle of distance and return. They panic when the avoidant steps back, assuming it's rejection, and then they push harder, chasing and demanding answers. But the avoidant doesn't need pressure. They need space to process. If you can hold steady, if you can resist the urge to fill the silence with fear, you'll notice that their coming back carries more weight than words ever could. It's their love language, hidden in action. It's their way of proving, in the only way they know how, that despite their fear, their connection to you keeps pulling them forward again and again. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, alone time isn't just a preference, it's a survival mechanism. Solitude is where they feel most secure, most regulated, and most in control. When they retreat into their own space, it's not necessarily about pushing people away. It's about protecting themselves from emotional overload. To the outside world, this can look like isolation or indifference, but to them, it's a form of self-preservation. They recharge by being alone. They process emotions by being alone. They feel safe when they're alone. And because of this, their private world is often the most guarded part of their life. Very few people are ever allowed into it, which is why, when an avoidant begins to let you into their alone time, you are witnessing one of the most intimate forms of love they are capable of showing. It may not look like the traditional markers of romance. They may not invite you into candlelit dinners or dramatic declarations of affection. Instead, it might look like them asking you to sit with them while they work quietly on something. It might look like watching a movie together in silence without the pressure of conversation. It could even be as subtle as them not minding your presence while they do something mundane, reading a book, tinkering with a hobby, or just sitting in stillness. These moments might not seem significant at first glance, but for an avoidant, they are monumental. They are essentially saying, this space is usually reserved for me alone, but I feel safe enough with you to share it. That is not avoidance anymore. That is love in its most vulnerable disguise. The reason this matters so much is because avoidants protect their solitude like a fortress. It's where they regain their sense of control. So when they let you inside, they are tearing down walls that they've spent years building. They are telling you, without words, that your presence doesn't threaten their peace. It enhances it. This is the kind of intimacy that avoidants rarely allow, even with people they care about. It is not about filling silence with noise or filling time with constant activity. It is about being comfortable enough to let you witness their unfiltered, unperformed self. In a world where they often feel the need to guard their emotions, this kind of sharing is an unmistakable sign that you are not just another person in their life. You have become part of the few they can trust with their most authentic self. And what's fascinating is that this form of intimacy often gets overlooked. Many people are so conditioned to expect grand gestures of love that they miss the quiet ones. They miss the significance of being welcomed into the sacred territory of someone's solitude. If you are with an avoidant and you suddenly notice that you are being invited into these private pockets of their world, pay close attention. That's not them treating you like just anyone. That's not them being indifferent. That is them saying in their own way, "You belong here with me, even in the moments when I usually choose to be alone." One of the clearest signs that an avoidant is falling in love is when they begin sharing vulnerabilities they normally keep buried.